Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Everyday Preparedness Podcast. I'm Zan,
This is Brent.
and it's New Year's, so we're back with a new episode for 2015, first one. And it's New Year's, everybody sets their New Year's resolutions, so that's what we're going to do. But we're not only going to list some New Year's resolutions for us personally in the preparedness field or lifestyles, but also maybe something that the average person could start out with. Maybe they're on the fringe of preparedness, they've looked into it, but maybe they don't want to feel like they're in Doomsday Preppers TV show, but they're still interested in starting it. So one thing I can tell you right now is we're going to strive to put out better quality podcasts and provide more content for the website. I know we're fairly new. We've only had the website up a month or so, and there's not a whole lot of content. We've got about 5 shows. We've also had a few problems with our podcast. We think we've got that fixed. Brent, do you have anything to add on that?
Not a whole lot. Just we're making part of our New Year's resolution, personal or business, is to, like you were saying, try to get more content more often and try to just fill everything out better. So
Yeah, so please bear with us on that. Keep checking us out. Keep coming back to the site, and let us know what you want to see, what you don't want to see. Any kind of feedback, just let us know. So moving on, in the preparedness field, we've said before, it can be pretty overwhelming. And I know people personally that I talk to, I'm sure you do too, I'm sure everybody listening does. Um, you run into somebody that maybe you can tell they're interested in any kind of element of preparedness, but they're a little scared or overwhelmed. When you're starting out, it's overwhelming. We've spoke about that on past episodes. So one thing you could do is just focus on even one aspect of preparedness. It could be food storage. It could be something for cold and warm weather. It could be your bug out bag. It could be your get home bag, or just simply having a few things in your vehicle. That's what I take. Brent, what do you have to say on that?
as far as, kind of making a decision to, kind of make, your New Year's resolution and prepping and stuff, my big thing is to step out of your comfort zone a little bit and learn something new. In the preparedness field, it usually turns out to be learn something old that, your grandpa probably knew how to do, but, if you're anything like me, didn't pay attention and didn't learn at the time, just learn simple stuff. I mean, how to plant a garden. I mean, even if it's nothing but a flower or something in the house, I mean, learn something.
Yeah, and that's actually my next thing I had on my list is learning a skill. So we could go on for a while on this. You talk about skills. I know it sounds stupid, but I used to have a lot of problems starting fires, even with a lighter, like, just regular lighter paper fires. And after I just constantly made myself, I was kind of killing two birds with one stone. I get a lot of cardboard from shipping and whatever. So I started burning trash in a burn barrel, and you find out different ways to kind of set up your fire to where it will last longer and start easier. So that sounds kind of crazy, but I mean, that is a skill you pick up. And there are all kinds of other things. Like you said, I wish I would have paid attention to a lot of things people would have taught me in the past. It gets overshadowed by other things at the time that I guess when you're younger, you don't care about this kind of stuff, and the older you get, you regret it. But gardening, that's something very simple. Me and my wife are just now getting into that, and we were planning this. We dabbled. I'd say we did a fair amount last year, and this coming year we're going to do even more. We've got some trees we actually planted in the fall, so that's one skill that we are slowly learning, and it has already paid off. I mean, last year we planted a 12 by 12 bed of lettuce, and we ate off that. We had nothing but salads for like 2 months. And think of how cheap that is, and how it's good for you. It's cheap, and it produced a ton of food. So, anything else to add on the skills?
Just, I mean, you could go on and on for a list of things that, you could do. Learn how to build something. I mean, even if it's, maybe you've got a kid or something, learn, how to use your hands. Me personally, I was never overly mechanically inclined until I started making a concerted effort to do stuff. And now, I've got where I, have a little personal woodworking hobby, do stuff around the house, and it saves money. I just built a new kitchen island for my wife. I had no idea what I was doing to begin with. But there's so many plans and stuff online, it's something as simple as that. You learn how to build something, you keep that knowledge, you can always pass it on. I mean, the list could go on and on, but that's something, that's kind of become important to me. So
Yeah, it's amazing. You mentioned that how much stuff you can find online. I mean, I've said it in the past. I'll say it again because I guess I don't know any. I'm like the least motorhead there is. I don't know anything about vehicles, but I replaced all my headlights and taillights by just looking up information online and finding out how to do it. And it's amazing that people still. It's now 2015, and people still do not use the internet to their advantage to find information out. So that's a skill in itself. Learn how to use the internet and the Google machine.
yep.
All right. Next up, and this can tie into everything we've been talking about also, and I am really guilty of this, is not getting sidetracked. We don't want you to put your head in the sand and just be paranoid about anything that has to do with preparedness. But there are times, and like I said, I'm guilty of this, where life gets busy. Maybe you have a hobby or two that takes off, and the next thing you know, you're not really focusing on your preps, even just basic stuff. And one thing I'm really guilty about that is not paying attention to world news. I switched jobs recently, and I don't have a lot of internet connection there. So when I get home, I start doing stuff around the house, and I just kind of completely. I don't. I'm on Twitter, but I don't check as much as I used to. And there's so much that goes on, and I end up being oblivious to it because I'm not paying attention. So that's something I'm going to try to do in the next year, is to just not keep my eyes on the news all the time, but at least know enough of what's going on in the world to be relevant. So what do you have to add on that?
Mine, on as far as along those lines, I am very bad about, I will start a project and then I start you get into the middle of it, and that's whenever it starts kind of getting boring a little bit. So I start another project, and then I start another project, and next thing you know, I'm about 10 projects from where I started. None of them are done, and everything's kind of stuck in the middle. So as far as that goes, it's, you start something and you try to at least finish it.
Yeah.
So that's a big one for me, and my wife loves me for it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it can be hard no matter what you're doing on those lines. It can be hard to stay focused. And I mean,
Well, it was like whenever.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it was like whenever I was started building like my bug out bag for the house. I started on it, and then thought, well, do I really need the one for my house worse than I need the one for my car?
Mm-hmm.
I stopped building the one for my house and started building the one for the car. And then it was like, oh man, my wife really needs one. And the next thing you know, I've got a whole lot of first aid kits and nothing else. I've got like 4 bags started, and none of them are finished, and they don't do that much good for you until you have them at least somewhat stocked. And like I said, mine were all kind of in a partial state of chaos, I guess would be the best way to put it. So, eventually I buckled down. I was like, okay, this is the one I'm doing. This is what I have to do. So
yeah, I've started, and we talked about this in the past about the cheap water storage in the 2-liter bottles, and I've been getting a lot of those bottles from people lately. And I guess I don't know if it's just the holidays and cold weather, but I get those bottles in a bag and I throw them in a back room somewhere. I should have them out. I should be filling them up and putting them, in the storage. But for whatever reason, I can't stay focused on it, and that's something I'm going to have to change going forward. So last on my list is lifestyle change, and this could be anything from very, very minuscule to complete overhaul. You can do what you want with this. Or maybe you have everything squared away and you just want to continue to focus on what you're doing. And one of my biggest things that I harp on people about, maybe I shouldn't, is just financials. The way you spend your money, the way you manage your money, what's a necessity, what's a want, what's a need. You got to distinguish that. But there's other things too. Religious practices, physical fitness. This can be back to learning skills, which can eventually learn to changes in lifestyle. We could go on and on for this. Brent, what do you got on that?
The one that I have been doing for the past probably 3 or 4 years, and it has helped me in just numerous ways all the way around, is, it sounds very generic, but then I start tying it into every part of my life as much as I can. I try a little bit more each year. And that's conquering a fear. Just find one thing that is so far outside your comfort zone that you just really, or you're scared of it. You don't want to do it. Maybe it's, apply for a different job. Maybe it's put a little extra money down for house payments or something, like you said, financially and stuff.
Yeah.
For me, it started off with learn how to swim. And I mean, that sounds really cheesy, but it was something. I'm not a big fan of water. I am not a very good swimmer, but I have gotten a little bit better. But it was something that got me out of my little bitty comfort zone that I had. And you'll find once you get out of that, if you can't tell, I've been listening to a lot of motivational tapes and speeches and stuff. But once you get out of that comfort zone, you feel a little bit more emboldened. You feel a little bit more powerful as a person. And, find something else. Like I said, the big thing is to find a goal that's out of your comfort zone and do what you can to achieve it. Like I said, you don't go crazy. You don't max out your credit cards because, you want to go take that safari. But, just tie it in with prepping and stuff. It's, maybe you feel that everybody, will look at you like you said earlier, Zan, on Doomsday Preppers or something. I know whenever I started, everybody was like, "Oh man, you got food put back? Where's your tinfoil hat?"
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And it's, sometimes peer pressure is the biggest fear some of us have. And you don't want people, thinking, "Oh, well, look at him." Like I said, mine started something as simple as I'm going to get in the water and learn how to swim. And from there, it was, just a steady step forward. And, you begin staying out of your comfort zone, you end up liking it out there.
Yeah, going back to what you said, actually 2 points I want to touch on that you said. The swimming, you actually learned a skill in the process of doing that. And, that's going back to what I said, that's killing two birds with one stone, is conquering a fear, learning a skill, or possibly learning a skill leading into a new hobby that could lead into a new business. There's so many of these that tie in together. And then about your motivational speaking, I absolutely love that stuff. There's nothing cheesy about it if you're listening to the right stuff. Who do you like to who have you listened to, or who do you like to listen to that you can think of?
Two I really really like is his name's Eric Thomas. He's usually called like the hip hop preacher, I think. He's all over Facebook and YouTube. And just search like E.T., the hip hop preacher, and the guy's just, he had a saying the first time I heard him, and he was giving this big kind of long-winded speech, and I was kind of halfway paying attention to it, but I ended up hearing part of it, and it was, just simply, whenever you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, then you will be successful. And so I've tried keeping that in the back of my mind ever since I've heard that. And the other one, his name is Les Brown. He's on a lot of the, he's a little bit older guy, but he's on a lot of the YouTube videos and stuff too. And, you get the little inspirational mashups, that's all over YouTube. It's like 20 minutes long, and by the end of it, you're jumping up in the chair and, you're ready to go run a marathon. And some of it sounds cheesy and corny, but, they're right on a lot of that stuff. It's just you have to push yourself and decide you're going to be at the top, or you're going to fail doing it, either way. So.
Yeah. I've got two that I like to listen to, and neither one of them are supposed to be motivational speakers. They just kind of, they appeared that way to me. They made me feel, they motivated me. The first would be Jack Spirko, who does the Survival Podcast on survivalpodcast.com. And that guy, he does, he's just a straight up guy, and he just tells you like it is. But some of the topics that he's touched on, I would listen to, and it would just motivate me to either, like what he always talks a lot about having some form of secondary income, supplemental income. And so I found things to do that, different avenues. And then he said to just kind of like what you said, start just getting up and doing something. And that's one reason we arrived at this podcast. So we're not trying to rip them off. They're doing their own thing. But we felt that we could add also to it because, we're very like-minded. So that was kind of a realist motivational speaker for me. And the other one is not he is, but he isn't. That's Henry Rollins.
Oh, yeah.
That guy, he tells it like it is. no excuses. You get up and do it, and you shut up. And that's just kind of how I go through life. I hear people whine and complain about the small things, screaming kids, or they're in debt up to their ears, or this isn't going right, or blah blah blah. And I'm just like, shut up, no excuses. Put your nose to the grindstone and just live life. You know what I mean?
Oh
So,
yeah, yeah. If you look up Henry Rollins' life story about how he ended up making it, I mean that's the dude did not sit on his butt and oh poor me, let's raise minimum wage type stuff. It was here's my chance. I am going a long way away and I am taking a chance. I don't want to live the life I currently am. So, you know what? By God, I'm going and doing this.
yep, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
The other one of his that I read every now and then whenever I start kind of feeling sorry for myself and this and that. I mean, everybody's going to, at some point. I read his little essay, I think it's called Iron, where it talks about him lifting weights.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that sounds really weird, but it's just, there's something about it that whenever I read it, it just, makes me feel like I could bench press anything.
Yeah.
I mean that kind of metaphorically. It's just a super powerful piece.
Yeah, so if you're looking for motivational speakers, there's 4 of them we just gave you. So excellent resources that you probably wouldn't expect to find on a preparedness podcast. So with that, that's pretty much all I've got. To sum up the show, this going forward in 2015, we're going to go back to the basics. There's so much we haven't even covered on this show yet. So you have to stick with us to find that out. But we've given you kind of a different kind of paths to take to pick one thing of preparedness. Just if you're wanting to get into preparedness, it doesn't mean you have to go all out into everything. You could take one step in any of these things we've said, and you wouldn't think them as being prepared for anything, but in reality, it is. So that's all I got to say about that for this episode. Brent, you got anything to add?
Just like you said, just one step. That's all it is to preparedness. That's all it is to living a better life. Is you find the direction you want to go, you find what you want in life, and you consistently take one more step.
And you just said it, living a better life. That's what preparedness is all about. It's not about ready for whoever, government, aliens. Well, I've heard it all. Whoever's going to come and attack you and take you to FEMA camps and all. No, it's about living a better life. I mean, who knows, that stuff could happen, but it's all about living a better life right here, right now. So with that, we'll close the show. Make sure you come back and check us out later. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. You can find that in the contact section of our website. With that, peace out.
Stay strong.